Have you ever stopped to think that a simple prayer can change all, even your lifespan? So it is. There's a story in the Bible that seems like something out of a movie script. A king, a death sentence, and a miracle that defied even the laws of time. It's not an exaggeration. The clock has literally turned back. But what made this prayer so powerful? Why did God decide to extend Hezekiah's life for another 15 years? In this video, you will discover how faith, a sincerity, and others' humility of this king touched the heart of God. Let's dive together into this story that doesn't just talk about healing, it talks about destiny rewritten. If you've ever been afraid of the future, faced difficult news, or simply want to understand the power of prayer, this story is for you. Because maybe time can be kind to you too. Hezekiah wasn't just another king of Judah. He was a man who knew where to turn for help when all seemed lost. When he received Isaiah's harsh prophecy that his death was near, he did not run after doctors or attempt political compromises. He just turned to the wall and prayed. It was a straightforward prayer, full of sincerity, tears, and faith. An outburst from someone who knows that only God can change what seems defined. And here comes what no one expected. God heard. Isaiah had barely left the palace when he was called back with a new message. Hezekiah would live another 15 years. That's right, 15 years more, gifted directly by God. What's more, Jerusalem's deliverance from the king of Assyria would be guaranteed. This episode leaves a clear lesson. When prayer is born from humility, she touches the sky in a special way. God cannot resist a broken heart. Now, think about this, applying it to your life. How many times do we accept bad news as inevitable endings? Maybe it's time to relearn how to pray truthfully, with delivery, without masks. It doesn't need to be pretty or decorated, it needs to be real. Because, as with Hezekiah, perhaps your answer is already on the way, before the prayer even ends. The scenario was desperate. 185,000 Assyrian soldiers surrounded Jerusalem, ready to destroy everything. Humanly speaking, it was the end. But Hezekiah did not despair. Instead of relying on military alliances or raising arms, he turned to the Sur. Together with the prophet Isaiah, he presented the situation in prayer, placing all his trust in the one who controls the armies of heaven. And look, God responded in an unbelievable way. That night, a single angel exterminated all enemy soldiers. That's right, no warrior of Judah needed to fight. The victory was won on the field of faith, not by force. While the enemy mocked, the king stood firm in prayer. This reminds us that there are battles that are only won on our knees on the ground, not with our fists clenched. The world values brute strength, but God honors those who trust Him with their hearts. Perhaps today you are surrounded by armies of worries, debts, illnesses, crises. Everything seems so much bigger than you can handle. But if there's anything Hezekiah teaches us, it's that faith activates the impossible. It doesn't matter the size of the threat. When the answer comes from heaven, there is no wall left standing. And the best part, you won't always need to fight. God fights for you. When Hezekiah assumed the throne of Judah, the scenario was total spiritual decay. His father, Ahaz, had closed the doors of the temple, promoted to idolatry, and scattered pagan altars throughout Jerusalem. But Hezekiah decided to break with this dark past. In his first days of government, he summoned the Levites, reopened the temple, and began a general purification. It was the beginning of a spiritual revival that would mark an entire generation. He didn't just carry out renovations on the facade, he went straight to the soul of the people. He restored the worship of the Lord, celebrated Easter as it hadn't been done for centuries, and called all the people of Judah, and even Israel, to reconnect with God. And do you know what happened? There was unity, joy, tears, forgiveness. When leadership has true faith, the people respond. The king didn't just order it, he participated in everything, and that made all the difference. Now look at our time. How many temple doors are closed in our hearts? How many of us have left faith aside, gotten used to distractions, and forgotten the essentials? Hezekiah's reform was not just political, it was from the inside out. And perhaps what we need today is not a new government, but a new heart. And that starts with a simple decision. Open the doors and let God in again. One of the most impressive moments in Hezekiah's story is when the time literally came back. That's right, the shadow of Ahaz's sundial, it moved back 10 degrees as a sign that God had indeed healed the king. It was not a trick of the light, it was a divine answer to human doubt. A cosmic miracle that confirmed something profound: when God speaks, he fulfills. And what was said by Isaiah happened in the smallest details. As prophecies of Isaiah, they weren't vaguely poetic, they were precise, direct, and delivered at the right time. The healing of Hezekiah, the imminent fall of Assyria, the deliverance of Jerusalem, everything was announced in advance. And this showed that, even when chaos was around, God remained in control of history. Hezekiah trusted the prophet's word because he knew it came straight from heaven. And this confidence kept him firm, even in the face of the impossible. Sometimes, we read biblical promises as if they were things of the past, right? But they are still valid. God's faithfulness does not have an expiration date. He still talks, he still delivers, he still moves time if necessary. You may have been waiting for a response for a long time, but what if it is already on the way? Perhaps after so many miracles and victories, Hezekiah made a mistake that, at first glance, seems harmless: opened the palace coffers and showed all his treasures to the emissaries of Babylon. A gesture of vanity, a desire to impress, maybe a little of both. The fact is that, behind that friendly welcome, there was a serious problem: pride disguised as hospitality. And that was exactly when the prophecy changed its tone. The prophet Isaiah did not mince words. Everything that Hezekiah showed would be taken by the Babylonians, and his descendants would be taken to the exile. That moment of ostentation had a huge spiritual cost. We learn here that even the most pious are subject to superb when they forget who won the victory. It is as if, after so many blessings, Hezekiah had forgotten for a moment who really was the owner of everything. And between us, who has never stumbled after a good phase? Sometimes it is more difficult to maintain humility at the top than to have faith in the valley. The story of Hezekiah reminds us that pride can make us lose what faith has achieved. So, whenever you achieve something great, celebrate, but remember to be grateful and recognize that it was God who opened the doors. Gratitude is the antidote to pride. Despite his mistakes, Hezekiah left a mark that few kings achieved. He was remembered as one of the most faithful in the entire history of Judah. Spiritual leadership, his courage in the face of Assyria, and unshakable faith during illness, they reveal a heart completely turned to God. He wasn't perfect, but he was integrity, and that makes all the difference. What God seeks is not perfection, it is true willingness to obey and trust. Hezekiah teaches us that even a moment of prayer, done in despair and with tears, can rewrite the entire destiny. He not only lived longer, but also left an example of spiritual perseverance. Judah had ups and downs, but with him, he lived a time of hope. It is as if Hezekiah showed that it is possible to be king and servant at the same time. What is it possible to have authority without losing power? Humility. And perhaps this is the most important message in your life today. You don't have to be perfect, but you do need to be real with God. Your story is still being written. And if you think you made too many mistakes to leave a legacy, remember Hezekiah. Because whoever prays sincerely, whoever searches with the heart, can still turn the page. And the most beautiful, God loves to rewrite stories. What if your story is still far from over? And if the answer you are waiting for does not depend on human effort, but on a sincere prayer? Hezekiah's life shows that faith, humility, and trust in God, they can change diagnoses, defeat armies, and even turn back time. What stops you from experiencing something like this today? Have you ever stopped to pray with your heart open, without formulas or masks? Have you ever thought about cleaning the temple of your life and letting God act as he did in Judah? Maybe what's missing is not more faith, but taking the first step. What if you started right now? If this content spoke to you, subscribe to the channel and activate the bell. Every week, we bring stories that show how the Bible still transforms lives. Share with someone who needs hope, because sometimes a video can be the beginning of a miracle.